Most people know that when you're injured in an auto accident or hurt yourself because you slip and fall on someone else's property because of someone else's negligence, you can sue for money damages. In this video, I'll discuss some non-obvious personal injury legal claims to compensate victims who might not otherwise know that they have a legitimate cause of action against a responsible party. The theory, Negligent Security, can help you recover as a victim of crime against a security company who breached its legal duty to protect you. You may have been the victim of a criminal attack while you were on someone else's property, typically a commercial property. Business owners have an obligation to ensure their property is safe for the public to visit, which includes having property security measures. Some examples include being robbed at an ATM, being mugged in the parking lot of a shopping center or mall, being assaulted in a hotel room, being assaulted in the lobby of an apartment complex, being robbed while pumping gas at a station, or being assaulted on a college campus. There are many more possibilities. By law, commercial establishments have a duty to provide an appropriate amount of security. While you are responsible for knowing what's going on around you in the community, businesses are also responsible for knowing what's happening in their neighborhoods. If you go to a gas station in a part of town that's known to be rough, and many of the station's outside lights aren't working, the owner could be held liable if you're attacked while you're pumping gas. Another example is mall parking lots. While plenty of lighting is enough security for a mall in a relatively crime-free area, it's not enough for a mall in an area that has a high rate of crime. In this case, the mall owner should have security guards patrolling the parking lot during the operation hours of all stores. If you are the victim of crime at a commercial establishment, you have a potential legal claim. Some questions you should ask yourself include, what is the crime rate at the location you were injured? Was the lighting adequate where the crime occurred? Were the locks on the doors in good working order? Did the establishment have a surveillance system? Did it have private security guards to patrol the area? Even if the establishment has security and good lighting in the main areas, it might not have had sufficient security in the parking lots or other key areas. Taking note of these circumstances will help your attorney investigate your case. If you are a victim of crime and a security company could have prevented your injury, you need a negligent security attorney. Click the link below for a free evaluation of your case. Placing a loved one in a nursing home can be a difficult decision, financially and emotionally, for everyone involved. You want nothing but the best of care, and it would be heartbreaking to know that your family member was mistreated. How do you know when someone is being mistreated, and what can you do if they are? To guard against nursing abuse, know what it is and how to identify the signs so you can stop it. First, there's physical abuse from things like pushing, kicking, and hitting. This can manifest itself with bruises or bleeding, physical injuries, or broken bones or fractures. There's also an emotional abuse from things like screaming, taunting, or isolating residents. Look for silence around caretakers, emotional withdrawal, anxiety, depression, or even suicidal ideation. There's nursing home neglect, which can cause malnutrition, infections, and other health problems. Look for signs of dehydration, unexplained diseases or infections, physical discomfort, and bed sores. There's financial abuse. Look for sudden financial difficulties, bills left unpaid by the elder, changes in the elder's will, and change in power of attorney. There can even be sexual abuse. Signs are bloody underwear, bruises on or around the elder's genitals, and unexplained venereal diseases. What behavior from nursing home staff is an indicator of abuse? Look for chronic, repeated failure to respond to residents' requests for assistance, unresponsiveness to concerns about conflicts between residents, disrespect or poor attitudes toward residents, and improperly administering medications. How can you find these sometimes subtle signs? Talk to other families and residents. Connect and engage with all staff members that you can. Ask lots of questions. Take notes about what you observe to keep a record. Record video and take pictures. Share the information you learn and save all the information you receive from the facility. Nursing home residents can be unable or even too disgusted or ashamed to come forward and tell anyone of what they're experiencing. As a result, it's important that families of nursing home residents keep a close eye on their loved ones and seek legal counsel if they believe that abuse may have taken place. If your loved one may have been a victim of nursing home abuse, click the Request Consultation button for a free case evaluation. Juul Labs, the maker of Juul e-cigarettes and vapor pods, are facing lawsuits alleging that they didn't adequately warn users of the risks of their products. Juul markets their products as a safer alternative to regular cigarettes, but they're more dangerous because they contain more nicotine. Nicotine can be harmful to anyone at any age, but it's been shown to be significantly more addicting and harmful to children and teenagers. Juul didn't do enough to warn users of these risks, and it may have even directly marketed to children. Teenagers have always been smoking regular cigarettes, but Juul has been giving them a brand new hobby because it's cool and becomes in appealing flavors. The Law Center wants to hold Juul accountable and get compensation for those victims. Juul has been the most recognized name in the race to dominate the exploding e-cigarette market, worth more than $38 billion. Tobacco companies are significantly invested in Juul. Their success is attributed to its popularity with young people. Juul marketed its e-cigarettes as hip and attractive to young consumers. Their advertising went as far as doing presentations in schools under the false pretense of a mental health and anti-addiction seminar. Juul didn't quit this behavior until federal and state governments started investigations and threatening fines and legislation. They only started putting sufficient nicotine warnings on their products when forced to do so by law. But that's in the future. Millions of people have already used Juul products without knowing the dangers, including an untold number of teens, many of whom now have a nicotine addiction. Although Juul is busy trying to clean up its act, the damage has been done. If you're one of the tens of thousands of people who used Juul products as a minor and then acquired a nicotine addiction, you may be facing health damage from nicotine in the future, as well as the pain, discomfort, and the expense of trying to quit. We think you should be compensated for that, and we want Juul held accountable for the harm they caused. Click the Request Consultation button for a free case evaluation. The 3M Combat Arms double-ended earplugs were purchased by the U.S. military to solve a serious problem: service members getting hearing loss or damage. Conditions like tinnitus and complete or partial hearing loss in both ears can be common in veterans. As of 2017, more than 2.7 million veterans were receiving disability benefits for some kind of hearing loss or damage, and more than 20% of all vets who served between 2003 and 2015 are receiving disability benefits for hearing loss or damage. The 3M earplugs were designed and marketed to the U.S. Department of Defense as a solution to this problem. The earplugs would securely fit inside the ears of service members and prevent repeated loud noise from penetrating the ear canals and causing hearing damage. The only problem is that they didn't work. The 3M earplugs simply didn't seal inside the ear canal. This led service members operating in noisy environments to suffer serious and often permanent hearing loss or damage. There's serious evidence suggesting that the manufacturers knew about the failures long before they became public. 3M has already paid $9.1 million in settlement to the Justice Department, but they didn't admit any liability. The government lawsuit alleged that 3M employees knew about the defects in the earplugs that prevented it from forming a tight seal as early as 2000, while the company was still selling them to the military as late as 2015. 3M should be held accountable because it knowingly sold defective earplugs to the military. If you're a veteran who suffered hearing loss or damage that can be attributed to 3M's earplugs, you may be eligible for compensation too. Click the Request Consultation button for a free case evaluation. Zantac is one of the most popular over-the-counter medications in the country, with millions of people using it to relieve heartburn symptoms and chest pain. However, it's also a potential cancer risk. The FDA announced a recall of Zantac along with all other medications using its active ingredient, ranitidine. This recall follows new research that found that ranitidine used in medications like Zantac was too often contaminated by NDMA. NDMA is a chemical classified as a probable carcinogen by the FDA, the EPA, and the World Health Organization. According to the U.S. Centers for Disease Control, NDMA has been linked to a variety of diseases, including severe liver disease, liver cancer, testicular cancer, and lung cancer. Millions of people use Zantac for years, not knowing about the risks they were exposing themselves to, and some users are now suffering from cancer that may have been caused by the drug. Zantac's manufacturer, Sanofi, had a responsibility to ensure that their customers wouldn't suffer from injury using their product, and they have failed to meet that responsibility. Zantac users who have suffered injury deserve compensation, and the Law Center wants to help them get it. If you or a loved one was diagnosed with cancer after using Zantac, click the Request Consultation button for a free case evaluation. In August 2018, a grand jury in Pennsylvania released a report detailing 70 years of childhood sexual abuse and the cover-ups in the Scranton, Allentown, Harrisburg, Pittsburgh, Erie, and Greensburg dioceses. The report accused more than 300 clergy members of abuse and said there were at least 1,000 victims. The grand jury's report was based on diocese records, but there are said to be many more survivors than the report was able to identify. Childhood sexual abuse is among the most heinous crimes a person can commit. It leaves the victims with lifelong physical and psychological injuries, and the Law Center can help victims receive compensation. In Pennsylvania, survivors of child sex abuse may bring criminal charges until they turn 50, but for civil actions only until a survivor turns 30. Many survivors of sex abuse in Pennsylvania were molested decades ago, and the statute of limitations prevents them from suing. The Pennsylvania legislature is considering a new law allowing survivors a 2-year window to file civil actions for expired claims. Claims that are time-barred may still pursue compensation from the Catholic Church through an independent compensation fund established by 6 Pennsylvania dioceses. All victims of clergy sex abuse in Philadelphia, Pittsburgh, Scranton, Erie, Greensburg, and Allentown dioceses are eligible for compensation as long as they've never previously settled a claim with the Catholic Church. At this time, there's no limit on the amount each PA victim can receive, and the church hasn't capped the fund's aggregate total. Each victim will have their claim evaluated by the administrators, and they'll be awarded compensation as it's deemed appropriate. They take the following into consideration when awarding compensation: extent of harm, victim's age, degree of the abuse, verifiable documentation of medical, counseling, or prescription expenses, and the claim's overall credibility. What are the lasting effects of childhood sexual abuse? It often leaves survivors with long-lasting physical and psychological injuries, especially depression. Other symptoms include anxiety disorders, eating disorders, personality disorders, post-traumatic stress disorder, relationship and intimacy issues, and somatic disorders. Childhood sexual abuse has also been found to cause permanent physical symptoms and increased likelihood of having health problems in general, more specifically with gastrointestinal health, gynecological or reproductive health, pain, cardiopulmonary symptoms, and obesity. If you're a survivor and have to deal with one or more of these symptoms, we can help. For a free evaluation related to your case, click the link in the description portion of the video and fill out the form. Elmiron is a drug that's been prescribed to millions of patients since 1996 in order to treat interstitial cystitis, otherwise known as painful bladder syndrome. But starting in 2015, researchers have begun to discover a potential link between this drug and a series of eye diseases called maculopathy. But even as evidence is piled up, Elmiron's manufacturer, Janssen Pharmaceutical, has failed to warn the public about these risks, even when it knew the harm that the drug caused. Interstitial cystitis patients are usually prescribed 300 mg daily doses of the drug, but for more serious cases, doctors have been known to prescribe 800 or even 1500 milligrams. Millions of people are taking a drug that may one day rob them of their vision, and an untold number may have already suffered serious health damage. If you or a loved one took Elmiron, click the Request Consultation button for a free case evaluation. Belviq and Belviq XR, known as lorcaserin, are weight loss medications that are meant to help people with obesity and weight-related health issues. It curbs hunger, thereby enabling people to potentially lose weight. Unfortunately, based on official findings, Belviq may be dangerous. In a 5-year double-blind study of 12,000 patients, those taking Belviq were more likely to be diagnosed with cancer than those taking a placebo sugar pill. The FDA stated a range of cancer types was reported, with several different types of cancers occurring more frequently in the lorcaserin group, including pancreatic cancer, colorectal cancer, and lung cancer. In January 2020, the Food and Drug Administration announced a recall of Belviq and Belviq XR due to this evidence linking the drug with an increased risk of cancer. Hundreds of thousands of people who thought they were doing something to improve their health were instead potentially damaging it. This is a drug that probably should never have been on the market, and the manufacturer should be held accountable. Those suffering from a cancer caused by Belviq have a potential claim for compensation, and the Law Center can help. Click the Request Consultation button for a free case evaluation. Opioid addiction is a serious problem and has reached epidemic proportions in the United States. Who's responsible, and what can be done to fight it? Doctors and drug manufacturers are two main targets in the legal fight against opioid abuse. Doctors often prescribe pain pills for simple back pain, and overprescribing has contributed to the heroin epidemic. Doctors are required to use reasonable care in preventing prescription medication from becoming harmfully addictive, and if they don't, they can be liable for a malpractice claim. Drug manufacturers are another contributing cause of the opioid epidemic. Drug manufacturers of fentanyl, oxycodone, hydrocodone, codeine, and numerous other drugs have contributed to the addiction problem in our country. Governments have started to file lawsuits against some of the manufacturers and sellers of these drugs because of their wrongful marketing and distributing practices. Families with loved ones who've died from opioid overdoses can participate in lawsuits against the responsible manufacturers if the warnings were inadequate or if they've used illegal marketing strategies to dump drugs into the mainstream society. Drug manufacturers have various responsibilities to protect society from addictive drugs. They must divert shipments of drugs when the order appears abusive. And they have to provide adequate warnings of the risk and potential for addiction from their products. Many doctors report that the drug companies downplayed the addiction risk during marketing. When drug companies market these drugs illegally or fail to divert suspicious shipments, they can be held liable for all damages, including treatment costs, lost wages, and pain and suffering. If you or one of your friends or a loved one suffered injury through opioid addiction, contact the Law Center for a free case evaluation. If you've been a victim of a serious crime, did you know that there are others other than the defendant, the criminal or perpetrator who committed the crime? There are others who can be held liable if their negligence or carelessness contributed or facilitated the commission of that crime. Who are the people or companies other than a criminal defendant who can be held liable in a civil claim to a crime victim? A landlord who doesn't provide adequate security measures, such as locks on doors or windows, or adequate lighting. Another, shopping centers or malls that don't employ security guards or other safety measures, despite that they profit from owning the shopping center and they know there's a high risk that a criminal will attack. Another group, colleges that fail to provide adequate security for students or fail to notify students of campus assaults, leaving those students vulnerable to becoming victims of crime themselves. A fourth group, security companies who don't have careful hiring practices or don't provide sufficient training for their guards to prevent the crimes that they're paid to prevent. Fifth, people who allow minors to carry guns or other dangerous weapons when those weapons are likely to be used to hurt others. Another group, child care centers, schools, churches, youth groups, and other nonprofits who don't check the backgrounds of employees or volunteers and are just transfer workers to other locations following allegations of abuse. Another group, tavern owners or social hosts who continue to serve alcohol to drunk patrons and then allow that drunk patron to drive drunk and hurt innocent people and themselves. Another, banks with outdoor ATM machines in secluded high-crime areas that can leave customers vulnerable to armed robbery and injury from violent crime. Proper security measures can ensure safety, so the failure to properly secure outdoor ATM machines can lead to liability. Another group, owners of private halfway houses who have a contract with the government to house criminals on early release. Whereas government has immunity, many halfway houses are privately owned and therefore owe the public a duty to supervise dangerous residents on early release. Another group, homeowners associations and hotel complexes who have common areas that are shared by all the tenants. The landlord is responsible to keep the residents safe from known dangers and risks. Many homeowners associations advertise their location as safe, secure, and under surveillance, giving the residents a false sense of safety if those common areas are ignored or unprotected. Another group, private landlords who rent homes and apartments that are subsidized by the Department of Housing and Urban Development, which are located in dangerous high-crime areas. These landlords have a duty to take reasonable safety measures. When these private contractors reap lucrative profits from the Housing and Urban Development subsidy, they have potential liability if they take no steps to keep their tenants safe. If you, one of your friends, or a loved one suffered injury as a victim of crime, contact the Law Center for a free case evaluation. In 2000, Congress passed the Trafficking Victims Protection Act, and in later years, they reauthorized, expanded, and strengthened the law as awareness of human trafficking and sex trafficking grew. The current version allows survivors of human and sex trafficking to sue those responsible, including organizations that participate, facilitate, or financially benefit from trafficking. Who are those types of industries that benefit from human and sex trafficking? Potential targets are hotels, apartments with security, massage parlors, condominiums, truck stops, and similar commercial entities. I'm a member of the National Crime Victim Bar Association, and I can help file a claim on behalf of the victim and bring the resources to assist on the road to recovery. If you work with survivors of sex or human trafficking and want to help, be sure to ask your clients questions about location, where transactions happened, surrounding businesses and commercial entities that were involved anywhere along the chain. Consider witnesses, bystanders, and employees of large companies who looked the other way and ignored what was happening, what was actually going on because of greed, profit, and just not caring. When you take action, you'll become part of the solution and make the world safer by preventing this from happening to other victims. If you, your loved one, your patient, your client of your agency or nonprofit, or other individual was the victim of human or sex trafficking, advise them of their rights and contact the Law Center today for more information. I hope you enjoyed this episode of a Law Center video cast. Please like, share, leave a comment, subscribe, and click the notification bell so you get notified of new videos. Join us live on Tuesdays at 7 and participate live in the chat room. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.